Once you've ruled out the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be true.
And it is not a question of a little occultism or a touch of mysticism, Mr. Benton. It is vampires, with a host of damned souls at Pelham House.
I am thy father's spirit, doomed for a certain term to walk the night.
Here, the old gods aren't dead.
And what of the true god?
He's dead. He can't complain.
People assume that time is a strict progression of cause to effect, but actually, from a non-linear, non-subjective viewpoint, it's more like a big ball of wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey stuff.
You're listening to Paranormal UK Radio.
Hello, everybody. This is Irene Allen, the host of the Paranormal Radio Show, the flagship show of the Paranormal UK Radio Network. And here with me again tonight is Michael Johnson. Michael Fuckle, I was going to say.
I thought you said Michael Johnson there for a minute there, and I go, that's my older brother.
I said Michael Johnson. Marky Johnson. Marcus Johnson. Mark Johnson. Okay.
My trainer calls me Marcus Aurelius.
Yeah. Okay. All right then.
Yeah. You're going, who?
Well, boring.
Oh, good Lord. Well, we haven't had one of these shows in the last several weeks, and we really apologize to our listeners. But we've just had a string of things happen, hitting our families. So it's and personally, so it's we've had to take some time off and get some things together. So I have to ask you now, Irene, how are you feeling with your broken foot?
Broken ankle. I've got a broken ankle. I'm hobbling around pretty good now. The crutches were a bit of a nuisance to get a hang of, I've had them over the top of my head, wrapped around my neck, everywhere. And but I am managing a bit now.
Well, that's good.
Still very painful. It's been 4 weeks, and I don't know how much longer it's going to be.
Well, thankfully I was unscathed, but I fell down my stairs again the other day. I was walking down the stairs, and for whatever reason,
I shouldn't laugh.
I thought I was at the bottom, and I still had one more step to go, and wound up flipping ass over tea kettle.
Did you bounce down on your bum?
Yes, I did, as a matter of fact.
Boom, 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 boom.
Well, it was just the last step. But my wife heard me crash down the stairs, and she came running, and I'm sitting there going, I'm okay. It's just my pride hurt.
Well, when I broke my leg, I was laying in the pouring rain for about half an hour until I could figure out how to crawl back to the house.
Oh, my God.
On my hands and knees.
Jesus.
And then, listen to this, then for the first week of having a broken ankle, I walked on it.
Yeah, because you didn't know it was broken.
I thought it was just a sprain.
Well,
no, I didn't know it was broken. I thought it was a sprain, so I'm walking around as usual.
Yeah, even if it's sprained, you're really not supposed to be walking on it. Even when it's sprained, you're not really supposed to be walking on it.
I know, but that shows you that I've got a very, very high pain tolerance.
Well,
so,
hopefully it heals up very quickly.
Yeah, I want to do a bit of tap dancing on the table. Yeah. I don't know how long it's take, Mark, but I've got this thing on my leg, and I just have to put up with it, won't I?
Yeah. Well, you'll get there.
Yeah. So what else has been happening?
Not much, really, other than, we've had family members who have been sick, and it's just been kind of a crazy time of year right now. So it's kind of why we've had to take a few weeks off. But we're back to it, and we have shows scheduled going into December. So,
you know,
hopefully things smooth out from here.
Yeah. Okay, so shall we get on with the show? What do you think?
I think we should, because we've dilly-dallied enough. So we want to
We've got a lovely lady waiting.
Yes, we do. In fact, a lovely lady that has been here before. She was here a couple of months back, Dr. Mary Helen Hensley. And Dr. Hensley, just so the people who don't remember the last show, she is an author and a healer, and she was involved in a car accident that changed her life forever, having a near-death experience with real clarity and really reconnected her to her life's purpose, which involves healing. And she's written 3 books so far, and is one of the most sought-after metaphysical healers in both Ireland and Europe. So, Mary Helen, welcome back to the program.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
She sounds lovely, doesn't she?
Yes, she does.
Your voice.
So full of energy.
Yeah, she's bubbly, but unlike us today.
And I'm going to put loads of great mojo around you both, because it sounds like you've had a tough time, and we'll take it from there.
We'll take all the mojo we can get.
Do that, Mary.
That's it.
Not too much mojo around Mark, though, because, it gets him going. So, but plenty around me. It'll do good.
You're just being a mojo hog.
Done.
I am a mojo. Sorry, Mary?
I said you're done and done. Absolutely.
Oh, thank you.
So, picking up kind of where we left off, we'll do a quick recap for those people who may not have heard our first show, which they should definitely go back into our archives and listen to it. But you did have a near-death experience, and you wrote about it in your book, Promised by Heaven. And then you had your follow-up book, Bringing Death to Life, an uplifting exploration of living, dying, the soul journey, and the afterlife. And then there's also Understanding is the New Healing. So I think we didn't really get into much about the healing aspect last time. So I wonder if we could talk a little bit more about that. With your near-death experience opened you up to becoming a healer. So tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, basically, when you get knocked out of your body and, you end up in a space where you're all of a sudden completely aware of who and what you are, as we all do when we leave, when we leave the mortal coil. I just had the chance to come back in and remember it all. So that's, my life changed completely after that, because I suddenly came back with this incredible awareness of, that I had put myself here and that I wanted to be here, and I wanted to be here during this time. And it makes going through all the craziness that we're going through at the moment very easy, because I continuously remind myself, you chose to be here. Nobody forced you to be here. Nobody made you here. You needed to be here. You wanted to be here during this time. And so with that, and an understanding about how this space and place actually works, I came back with an ability to manipulate in the most positive way, frequency, light, energy, and it's just been all fun and games ever since. So I would be very well versed now at this stage of my life of working with frequency, because as I discovered at that stage, everything is frequency and light. And if you can pitch something, which I came back with this ability to hear, not just physical states, but emotional states. So a suicidal tendency has a tone. A brain tumor has a frequency. Any number of, emotional states or physical states, they all have a tangible sound to them. And so I'm able to hear that, and by hearing it, the same way that homeopathy works, where you can, you match something, and, it's like a little bit of the poison can actually become the cure. And so with frequency, you can match the frequency of something, and basically if the person, if their individual journey is finished and they are they are no longer in need of the process that they're going through, you can use frequency in order to create that space for the person to either move on, heal, or pass on in peace. And so that's what's really cool about it, is that everything has a tone and a sound. Everything has a vibration.
That makes perfect sense to me, because even in science, they drill down to everything is energy. Even matter is a form of energy, and everything has its own vibration. Even when they've gone down to the atomic level, they've been able to observe atoms vibrating. So everything vibrates, and sound vibrates, light waves have their own vibration and energy, and even different dimensions from the spiritual dimensions and upwards or lower all vibrate at different levels and frequencies.
Absolutely. And so one of the most beautiful things about frequency is, in the beginning, you come back and, like, I can touch somebody and I can hear this cancer, or I can hear their Parkinson's, and it's almost like a type of synesthesia where it's like the signals cross. I can smell entity attachments, or I can smell when there's a change vibrationally. Just like a friend of mine who's blind, he can taste color. And, how do you explain that to someone who's never experienced it? You can't really. But what's so cool about it is that with the frequency, I spent then many years working with a sound engineer who is just, he's a music producer, just most incredible guy, Greg Papania. He's the founder of signsmusic.com and SINES music.com. It's incredible. But I would go, hey, Greg, this astroglioma sounds like this. And he would be able to pitch it and place it in a piece of music that was, let's say, toned to 432 hertz, the frequency of love, or backed by 528 hertz, the capacity to heal human DNA. And I'd just go, hey, I need this. And he'd go, okay. And it was just incredible. And so this repertoire began to build. And what was happening is we were now transforming this capacity to be able to feel and hear these things for me as the healer. And I now become the window washer, where I'm kind of like wiping the windows clean and then handing the tools to somebody else so they could heal themselves. And that's what took it to another level. You could suddenly drop every ounce of ego that you have, or every idea that you are the healer in the situation, and you go, no, I'm just here to connect some dots. Here's the tools, guys. And what was happening is people are using these frequencies to be able to heal themselves. One of the most incredible things that's been going on recently is I got the pitch and tone for the COVID virus. And so what's been really, really neat is we packaged it up, created a 33-minute piece that's free on my website, maryhelenhensley.com. And so it covers everything from people who were fearful of it, people who didn't want to get vaccinated, people who did want to get vaccinated and then had issues afterwards, people who felt pressured or bullied, people who felt like their world had been turned upside down. It covers everything, and especially the actual virus itself. And so people have been running this program and these frequencies every single day, and what's happening is quite fascinating. A woman was telling me last night, she said, I would not have gotten through this without this. And what's super cool now, though, is that people are going in who've been using only the frequency and having antibody tests and coming back positive with the antibodies. So there's nothing we can't do with frequency.
Well, wow. I've even heard of some therapeutic techniques, not in the mainstream, of course, using sound to target cancers or to target other types of physical ailments, and using sound and vibration frequencies. But you don't hear as much about it in the mainstream medical area.
No, not in mainstream medical, because obviously we're creating a space where we want people to have easy access to these things and help themselves heal. So there's not huge money to be made. So of course you're not going to hear about it in mainstream, which unfortunately is what it boils down to at the end of the day, under the guise of wanting to see people be healthy. I think we all know that's one. That's one big fat farce.
Definitely.
I mean, like, how many people have you heard of who have natural immunity and have had a wonderful, me, I'm like, I've had the best COVID experience ever, 2 amazing years, and nobody's been asking me about it. They don't want to know how I stayed healthy. They don't want to talk to me about that. All we want to talk about is is that there is no other way out of it bar being vaccinated. And so I don't care what people do one way or the other. I hate the idea that people have been lulled into that there's only one choice available and that we all must adhere to that. I don't like that. And so, I'm writing a book currently where, which will actually be book number 10, where I am taking the stories of people who experienced COVID and were not vaccinated and how their body coped and dealt with it. These are people who fared well, did great, because we're just not hearing those stories. We hear all the bad stuff, and I don't think that's science. Science is not just telling one side of the story for an agenda. Science is where we talk to everybody involved, and that has not been the case. And I think it's very important to right that wrong.
Well, yeah, and right now, unfortunately, what we're dealing with is more political than it is medical. And of course, these I used to work in pharma, not directly for pharma, but I see the tactics they've used. And it's all about making money. What's the famous saying is pharmaceutical companies don't create cures, they create customers. And they wouldn't be making, and even now, and again, I'm not going to get on a political rant, Irene, I promise I'll be good, but I will say this, that Pfizer is making, they just mentioned something that they made like $4 billion in profits this last year. $4 billion, and that's profit. That's after all the research is paid for, all the marketing is paid for, everything. $4 billion. And of course, now we're on a mandated vaccine where they say you have to go out and take these vaccines. And the more vaccines they get people to take, the more money these pharmaceutical companies make.
Absolutely. And it's just, and anyone who's now hiding behind it's a choice, is unfortunately, as we move, there's no denying that we're pushing towards a 2-tier society of vaccinated and unvaccinated, which was all part of that. It couldn't unfold any other way. Mm-hmm. And what's very unfortunate about that is that people that I have deep respect for, who I would consider highly intelligent and very educated, can't see right in front of their eyes what's happening. Because if I turned around and I fired my staff tomorrow because they chose to get vaccinated, guess who would be done big time? Me, right? However, here in Ireland, people are being fired left, right, and center for not being vaccinated.
It's happening here in the States too.
It's already happened, So it's insanity, So non-science has become nonsense, and here we sit. And, the world that I and my children have access to is getting smaller by the minute. And yet, if I, as a doctor and a public servant, closed my doors to people who were not, who had chosen to vaccinate, can you imagine the uproar? Yet I can't eat in a restaurant. So, it's just insanity.
Yeah, and you know what? Putting that aspect of it aside, I mean, let's talk a little bit. Let's bring your NDE into it a bit, because one aspect of it, I think we discussed last time, is the fact that we all chose to be here at this point in time. And sometimes I'm sitting there going, why? It's like, why in the holy living hell would I choose to be here during this
what they say,
bizarre
the common
world?
answer is learn.
Well, yeah, I've been spiritually scolded saying, I'm here to learn and experience. It's like, yeah, well, okay, I think I've learned enough. Thank you.
Well, it's, each generation gets to experience something akin to, my great grandparents would have done World War I. My grandparents did World War II. My mother did World War II, and then they did Korea, and they did Vietnam, and every generation gets to experience some class of warfare. And then,
that's true.
For those of us who are living in the Western world, it's been very different, and we tend to forget what's not right on our own doorstep. There's things happening all across the globe. But we've been so conditioned not to look that way because it's not directly affecting us. We're getting the chance spiritually to experience something akin to warfare that's not actually involving, guns and bullets. It's a completely different type of attack, removal of privilege, removal of separation, the chance to out your, they're asking actively. The lady who was house sitting for me last week, she just got back from Germany, and they are actively asking people to turn their neighbors in who are not complying with COVID regulation. So it was really, really interesting. And I'm going, good Lord, talk about a short memory.
Yeah, and talk about history repeating itself.
Ooh, I was like, are you serious? And she said, dead serious.
What are we going to have to start doing?
What do they intend to do with them when they're... Sorry, Mark.
What
does the government intend to do with them then?
Well, they get penalized. So it's like, it's like today...
Well, everyone's penalised that's not inoculated anyway at the moment.
Well, exactly.
They're not allowed in bars and things like that without their passports.
Right. I had the police in, I have tons of police who come in to get adjusted in my office. And one was in yesterday, and he goes, hold on to your hat. He goes, economic sanctions against the unvaccinated are on the way. I said, are you serious? And he goes, yup. And he goes, he said, we can't believe it. I said, why are you still in there? And he's like, trust me, we're dropping like flies. And I was like, really?
There's video on YouTube and whatnot of police officers who, and even firemen and nurses, but as the police officers who are quitting because they're being forced to get vaccinated or they're going to lose their job, so they're quitting. And they're doing it in style by signing off and posting it for the world to see. And
actually, I am vaccinated. I've had the 2, and I'm due the booster because of my age and my health issues.
And that'll be every 3 months,
Yeah, you know what? My wife and I
are... stop? That's what I say,
See, my wife and I are vaccinated, but we did it at a time back before we really understood all this stuff that's coming out. And we have no intention of getting booster shots. So what's going to happen then?
You become like me again.
Yeah. So we'll be like the pariahs. Is somebody going to be able to, we're going to start hiding the unvaccinated in our basements and attics, like the Underground Railroad, or like what happened in Germany. I mean, it's just here's what I don't understand. This is what I wanted to get around to, not from the political side of it, but from the
spiritual side of it,
the human side of it. It's like the fact that literally half, for me, I could say half the country, but so much of the world is complying and going along with this insanity. And it's somebody, and I point to the hypothetical they, whoever they are, that's really running the show, because we have no idea who's running our country right now. It's certainly not the people they say it is, but how they've so effectively divided everybody to the A and B, left and right, if you, God forbid, hold a different opinion or try to speak your mind, you're shut down, you're canceled, you're ridiculed, you're called stupid or a conspiracy theorist, or now over here they're calling you a domestic terrorist.
Domestic terrorists, yeah, and it's fascinating to watch. As an American abroad, it's fascinating to watch too, because I'm going, hang on a second, what if I, my last children's book I wrote is the first in a preteen series for the LGBTQ plus community. You know, it gently and sweetly explains and presents an all-inclusive opportunity for kids, no matter who they are, what they identify as, to find themselves in a book. And so I'm like, hang on a second. What if you don't want to support Trump, but you support LGBTQ, but you don't want to be vaccinated? Where am I? Because they're trying to blanket everybody. You're either, you know, you're blue or you're red, you're pro or you're con, you're vax or you're unvax. It's like people don't work that way, you know. And it's so funny how quickly people assume that you must be. Oh, well, if you're unvaccinated, you were a Trumpster. And I'm like, oh. I wasn't a Trumpster, actually. And, oh, so you're Biden. No, I'm not him either. I don't like either of them.
Well, you know, or they assume that if you support or even just like Trump, oh, well, you're a racist. You're automatically a racist. Right. It's like, wait a minute, what? Yeah. Huh? What? And then, you know, all the reverse racism that's going on right now. I feel like we're living in bizarro world.
We are. It's definitely like a Zelda game. But what's so interesting is if you can step outside of that temporarily and you can go, what if all of this was happening for me? So what if I'm sitting here in this space and I'm looking around and it looks like the world has gone mad and all of these people that I had deep respect for and this and that and the other, they've become compliant and all this. What if they were doing that on a much grander scale, in a much more spiritual meaning than what I've been giving to? What if they're doing it for me? What if this is about maybe I'm the one who's growing and evolving, and these are playing the roles that are allowing me to do that. They're allowing me to show up. They're allowing me to either choose love or hate. What if they were allowing me the opportunity to become my best self within this? And I see that opportunity every single day, because I mean, I could do battle with people in my office every single day. You know, somebody will walk in the door with a mask on and then they'll pull the mask off and they'll go, I'm double vaccinated, and they'll throw the mask down on my furniture, climb up on the adjusting table, they'll get adjusted, and I'm just standing there looking at them going, like, I can have that conversation 24/7. I'm going, wait a second. Are you not aware, like the rest of the world, that you're vaccinated with something that helps you not to get as sick and helps you potentially not die from the virus? It has nothing to do with you transmitting it or being capable of carrying it. Do you not understand that? And they're like, huh? Yeah. And I'm, oh my gosh. And so then they get to turn around and go, but you're the one putting everybody at risk and you're being selfish. And I'm going, I could literally have that argument with somebody 50 times a day. And I either choose not to do that, and I choose to understand that I know where I stand with that. I know where the logic is there, and that even the smartest of people who are banging the drum saying something that's just completely crazy, they're presenting me with the opportunity to show up with love and kindness, because I could very easily turn around and go, hey, no one else can come into my practice unless they're unvaccinated. And this is the kind of thing you're going to start seeing. Mm-hmm. And I won't do that. I won't succumb to that, because then I become that which I despise. And so I'm being presented spiritually with an opportunity every single day to show up for myself. And that's what these people are doing for me. So rather than worrying about what they think, what they believe, what they're imposing on me, what they're taking from me, I am being presented with an opportunity to show up. And it has happened historically. Oh, it's so cyclic that it's so predictable. We've seen it 1,000,000 times in the history of the world. So it's not about going and trying to change the cycle. The cycle of craziness always appears. You know, it's the players are different. And now I'm the one on this side of it who's sitting there going, okay, I see you. I see what's happening here. And I have the chance to show up with grace and kindness.
Well, we all, and again, for those people who subscribe to the idea of reincarnation, we all plan our lives, what our lives are going, of each lifetime, and the types of roles we're going to play and how we interact with those people around us. And sometimes you take on the villain or the opposite side or the crazy people or the good people or whatever. We're all playing roles and we're all learning from each other. I mean, even in my opinion, what I'll call the crazy people, they're still learning something from us, maybe deep down on a psychic or spiritual level, even though they're not going to agree and they're pushing their agenda, and we're not. I'm hoping sometime.
Sorry, Mark. What's that noise?
I don't know, Mary Helen. Are you?
Is that you, Mary?
What is it?
I don't know. Is it you?
No, I'm just sitting here.
Yeah.
Oh. Could you hear it?
Yeah, I heard it. Some weird shuffling like sound.
No.
Okay. Irene, either your ghosts are interfering or they're monitoring us. Anyway.
Speaking of, let me tell you something fun that happened, because this is a really interesting thing. So I was in Scotland last week. We're researching a book with my bestie that we're doing on the presence of Jesus and Mary Magdalene in Scotland. And, yeah, super fun. And so anyway, we arrive at this place called Broomhill Castle in Stirling. And, it's quite basic as castles go. It was comfortable and all. But what was interesting is they were telling us, that there several different hauntings that happen in there. One being from when it was a care home, and then another was a little girl who died there, and she runs up and down the hall and bangs on the doors. And so sure enough, who got to hear that all night? And it was so funny because I'd forgotten to say before I went to bed, hey, I already know how this works. And so I think this is an interesting thing for your listeners to know, because you're like, okay, wait a minute. Explain a haunted property. Does that mean that the spirit is trapped there? Actually, no. What it means is that there is, again, we're back to frequency, where there is, when you have a certain vibration or frequency of expectation of what it is that you want to see, want to experience, want to feel, you can trip that vibrationally or with frequency. And so there's like a hologram that plays out. So the hologram of the girl running up and down the hall, banging on the door, jumping on the bed, that will play in response to your vibrational expectation of that. And so for me, I had forgotten before, I was just busy and tired, and I had forgotten to go, rock on, guys. I already know how this works. I get this. And so for about 3 hours, I was just dozing off and feet down the hall, bang, 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 bang on the door, jump on the bed. And people are like, what? Would that not freak you out? No. I was aboard the Queen Mary a long, long time ago in Los Angeles, and it happened to be the favorite ship of Winston Churchill. And it was so funny because I came out of the shower one day and I was bent over on the side of the bed, towel drying my hair. And I sat up and boom, there's an apparition of Churchill in front of me.
Really?
And, yep. And I'm like, hello. And he came in that form and explained to me how the Queen Mary worked. And it changed everything. It was so incredible because, there's a guy who got severed in half by a watertight door. There's a little girl who drowned in the pool. And like people actually see these things. And I'm going, I have difficulty thinking that this cute little girl with the big red bow in her hair is trapped here. I don't like that concept. It doesn't fit with what I know to be true. And so it was he who explained to me this whole thing about it's like a holographic Disney world, that the spirit world of those who have recently been incarnate here, they get great pleasure from providing pleasure for us and also from leaving things behind. He happened to love the Gray Lady. He loved the Queen Mary, and he wanted to do something that would contribute to its survival. And one of those things is because it's touted as one of the most haunted locations in America, because there's a lot of activity. And so what happens is people will go in with this expectation, and that frequency of expectation will actually trigger a holographic. It's like a movie that plays over and over and over again, but the person experiences it in real time, as if they're experiencing the haunting. Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
So that's what happened last week in that castle, which was really, really cool. And then just yet another fascinating way that frequency works in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I've always thought that also with those people, when we think of like children spirits, and it seems unfair and cruel that there are children spirits that haven't moved on, but yet even adult spirits, and sometimes I look at it as time is different. Once you've passed, time really has no meaning. So somebody may be seeing ghosts for like 40, 50 years, and really to that ghost, it could be minutes or seconds.
Yep. Yeah. So you have that, and then you have that basic, that holographic expectation playing out for your own entertainment.
Well, sometimes it scares the crap out of people. So,
don't worry me.
Yeah, Irene's house is very haunted, so she's used to it.
Yeah, I take no notice.
We have Mr. Burke here. We don't even think twice about it.
You got Mr. Burke. I got Mr. Morgan.
Yeah. Pint.
Yeah. I got Mr. Morgan and Mrs. Morgan and a couple of others.
Oh, wow.
In the family.
That's great.
Yeah, I don't take any notice whatsoever.
No, me either.
In fact, I think they saved me to this. I must tell you something tomorrow, Mark, about what happened today. You know the problem I've been having with the WALL?
Yes.
It was put in my head today to find the original deeds of this house when it was first built. And on there, it's got the boundary of the land.
There you go. You could go down.
So they've helped again.
Does the town or the county have a hall of records that you could go down and look up? Because I'm used to doing that during paranormal research. We'll research
the original deeds, everything is written down. Yeah. I know exactly what the measurements now should be for this property.
Should definitely look into that.
Yeah. But thanks to my ghost.
Yep.
Sorry about that, Mary.
That's great.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's something that's been worrying me for 5 years. And hopefully today, with a bit of luck, we might get it solved.
Nice one.
Yeah.
So...
But sorry, Mark.
No, go ahead.
You're talking about, this little child running up and down, jumping on the beds and everything. She's a recording, obviously, like you say. Mm-hmm. Recording, yeah. Well, we have one of them play out every year, and that's pots and pans. This house has got two kitchens, the old original kitchen and the new modern kitchen, which I use. Now, the old original kitchen, all that's got in there is a couple of vases for putting flowers in, the dog food for the dogs, and a washing machine and a tumble dryer. Okay? But every now and then you can hear pots and pans clashing as if someone's been washing up and they're putting them away in the cupboard. My granddaughter this week, she turned around and she said to me, Nanny, there was people out on the landing talking all last night. I was listening to them, but I couldn't understand what they were saying. Then those pots and pans, were you putting pots and pans away down in the old kitchen? She said in the middle of the night, that kept me awake, pots and pans. And I said to her, my granddaughter, she doesn't know the story of the pots and pans. We've kept the ghosts very low key in this house because the grandchildren stay in.
Right.
So I said, oh, don't worry about that. That was more than likely Myra. Oh, all right then. So there's a lot of things been happening here in the last couple of weeks, but it's always when the children are here. When the children are here, it goes off the scale. Well, paranormal activity goes off the scale.
It's that
and
young
so high
energy.
In energy, you see.
Yeah, the high young energy.
Yeah.
And like we were saying,
everything is possible.
Yeah, I was talking to my husband, and we were talking about the fact that when the children are here, the house changes. The atmosphere in the house changes. It's as if it's living, breathing, loving, being what it is, you know? When the children go away, it changes back to what it was before, cold and quiet and still. But as soon as the children come here, boy, does it explode. Paranormal activity everywhere.
Fun. Well, it is Halloween next week, so...
Yeah. No, it's not. It doesn't matter what time of year they come. And once they come, this house will get so much activity because of the energy of these kids. I'm sure of it.
I'm pretty sure.
Vibrations, you see. Going back to vibrations.
Well, speaking of vibrations, let's talk a little bit about your healing. And you're saying that everything is vibration and energy. How do you go about, let's say you have somebody coming in for a medical condition. What is your process for healing that person or understanding what the root cause is and working on healing?
It's different with everybody who comes in, and I have a bed that I search far and wide for that's like a giant conductor. It's full of speakers and all sorts of incredible stuff that when we run and amplify the frequency through the bed, it goes into the person's body. So they're not just having an auditory experience, they're immersed in the experience. So let's say if I'm running 528 hertz for DNA repair on somebody who's got cancer or whatever, it's like their body is submerged in the frequency. It's incredible. And so, depending on the individual and what's going on, for some people, stuff come up that's, past or concurrent lifetime stuff, or, some people it's very much so from this time, or they're projecting forward into a future, and they're just, all they are is chemical reactions happening in present time. And so it's bringing them back into a space where, we can go in and find out where their energy is. Is it in present time? Is it projecting forward? Is it going back? Is it, stuck in a cellular memory that's just playing over and over again and interfering with what they're trying to do now? It's different for every person, and there's a million different frequencies. There's a million different ways to deliver the frequency. So for me, it comes up like a mind movie. I can see what happened, or I'll get information about why, or, somebody might see their dead grandmother, talk to their dead grandmother. Somebody else might get, a story from 1781, or it's completely different, from person to person.
Sounds fascinating.
It's so cool because I just don't get, I don't get bored. It's great because it's just always something new.
Yeah.
Now, do you need to meditate or put yourself in a certain state of consciousness before you attempt this? Or are you able to just slip right in and work with the person and feel the energies?
ADD as they come, man. Or ADHD, I say. Mm-hmm. Or ADAD, attention dialed into another dimension. Yeah. No, I don't have any kind of special ritual, or I don't have to be asleep or in a trance-like state or whatever. It just happens. And it always happens. But, so it's super cool. And so then, the last book that I did, just before the last children's book, was called Understanding is the New Healing. And this was the first book in Audible history where the book creates an immersive listening experience for the individual. So they're not just hearing it audibly. Behind each story that I'm telling, which are all stories that have happened, in my practice with people, there are the frequencies that would be, so if I'm talking about somebody who's lost somebody in the grief process and then that person turns up or whatever it is, the appropriate frequency for that is playing behind the narration of the story. So it takes it from just, oh, that's a nice story, to where they're literally feeling it in every fiber of their being. It's really a cool experience. And it's pretty rare in this world anymore that you get to be the first at anything. So it was kind of cool to be able to do that. So again, it's all about the vibes.
Yeah.
There's a lot of what you were describing that has some parallels to some of the shamanic healing techniques that I had learned about when you're talking about a piece of somebody being caught in like some cellular memory or something deep down. There's a practice called soul retrieval.
Retrieval, absolutely.
Yeah, and that sounded very similar to that, as going and finding that broken off piece or that missing piece of that person to help, restore them and make them more whole.
Right. And, what people forget as well is that, if somebody is stuck in the past, or they're being traumatized by something that's happened in the past, and you sit and you go, you do realize that that's not presently happening right now. Oh, of course I do. Of course. I'm sitting here talking to you. It's not happening. Yeah. And the only way you can access that memory is through a series of chemical reactions in the brain. And they're like, okay. And I'm like, well, imagine if you went back and it takes a neural pathway in order to carry out that chemical reaction for you to access that traumatic memory. Okay. Imagine if we were able to go back and take the wisdom from the trauma, or from the joy, whatever it was, if we were able to extract the wisdom from that and then blow up the neural pathway that allows you to continuously go back to that and experience the visceral response to the trauma. And they're like, oh my gosh, is that possible? Yep. Like a stick of dynamite. You can go in, and rather than filling in the potholes that make it easier and a smoother transition back to the trauma, you just blow that thing up, extract the wisdom, and Bob's your uncle.
Fascinating.
I'm speechless.
So that's what I do on a daily basis.
It's one of those things where I have to sit back and process that a little bit.
Right. Well, you can't be anywhere but where you are in present time. And so if you're anxious, which I don't know anybody who's not suffering from some level of anxiety anymore. You hear it commonly. Kids are talking about it. Everybody's got anxiety now. You can't be anxious if you're in present time. The only way you can be anxious about something is in anticipation of something that's not going to go well. And that's a future event. Again, it's a chemical reaction that allows you to step out of the physical present time into a future that hasn't even happened yet. And then it creates a visceral somatic response. And so it works the same way going forward as it does backward. And so anxiety is just somebody who tends to go, you can have people who are traumatized about events that haven't even taken place. And then you have people who are traumatized by events that have long gone. And if you can pull somebody back into complete and present time, and you can actually eliminate their access to those cellular memories, obviously they would have had, they happen for our growth and our wisdom. And so go in and get that old growth and wisdom. But for God's sake, stop playing the same thing over and over again and traumatizing yourself. And that's how simple it is.
There you go, Mark.
There you go. That's a mic drop.
What you mentioned, the way you mentioned it reminds me, there was this old weird 80s movie, Adventures of Buckaroo Bonsai, but there's this great line in that movie. It says, no matter where you go, there you are.
You are. And that was the theme of my Scotland trip last week. Every post that I put up was wherever you go, there you are. Yep.
And it's about living in that moment and not worrying about what's going to happen. Even in religion, even in I'll say Jesus even said, yeah, don't worry about tomorrow. Don't worry about what you're going to do, what you're going to wear. You live in the moment. Live for today.
Yeah. And then people go, well, how am I supposed to plan for the future? What am I supposed, Yeah, you can do things that are congruent with your present time goals that plan for a future. But what's so interesting is people are beginning to realize how quickly the solidity of the material world can dissolve around them. I'm like, now has never been a better time to be poor financially. Do you know?
Yeah,
now
well,
has never been a time not to have heaps of savings. Because guess what? A lot of people are going in and finding out that for different reasons. It's like when we had the Celtic Tiger collapse here in Ireland. And people who had worked 40 years and built up a pension went in and their pensions were gone because the government took them. Do you know?
I remember that, yeah.
Remember that? And they were like, how could this be? Because everything's built on sand, do you know? Unless you are sitting right now in present time. And that's why what I invest my time in is making sure that I always have a skill available to me in present time. So when my days of being able to physically adjust people are over as a chiropractor, I actually have a writing career that I turn to, or a healing career that I turn to, or a consultation career that I can do online. I have created in present time that will continue to perpetuate my success and my safety in present time. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So stockpiling piles of money when, in a couple of years' time, all money will be electronic. It
is over here now.
I'm holding on to cash. I'm the only business in my town that takes cash only.
Yeah. No, you can't find anywhere that really take cash here.
Yep.
Not anymore.
Yeah.
Well,
and so there was a blip yesterday and there I was for, I can't tell you how many times it's happened where I went in to buy a cup of coffee and I'm sorry, your card was declined.
Oh my God. That's been happening to us this week.
I'm like, really?
Yeah.
Like, is that what we're going to do? Do you know? Yeah. Come on.
Well,
that happened for 2 days. We couldn't use the card.
Yep.
Website the bank got hit.
Yep.
Well, now what they're also doing over here is they're talking about, monitoring every single person's bank account. Down to like if you do a transaction $600 or more, they're going to be the IRS is going to be auditing you and monitoring it. It's like every little thing you do, unless you're dealing with cash not in the bank, is monitored. They know about it.
Yeah, and that's there's no conspiracy about that. That has been very clearly publicly stated. And so this is back to the danger of people don't realize that their compliance has gotten all of us into a very precarious situation. And, it's not anyone who says this is about a virus any longer is living in my land. Do you know?
No.
But, look, all we do is we have an opportunity with everything that's going on around us to show up for ourselves, to show up for our, for our children. I have spent so much time trying to balance out the anxiety. Imagine being 17, 19 years old and you're like, what on earth is happening out there? Everything that they knew to be real and true a couple of years ago no longer exists.
That's true.
But see, a lot of those younger people have been. I know so many of those younger people have been indoctrinated, so they fall right in lockstep because I've been watching ever since the 80s the slow progression of what I call societal engineering. Things being changed, everything from political correctness coming in to getting people to think certain ways and do certain things, and then the greater divides that we've been seeing for the last 20 years, people getting more and more divided, and now suddenly, boom, it's like as much division as you can get. I mean, I have family members that I have to watch. I'm sorry.
Sorry?
I was saying I have family members that I actually have to watch my mouth in front of because if I say the wrong thing, they flat out said, well, if somebody doesn't agree with me, I'll just disown them. I don't care if they're family or not. It's like, really?
Well, I've been canceled by most of mine, but it's so funny because I
dumped my lot.
My cousin who has this real thick Southern accent, way worse than mine, and she goes, my God, people, she goes, the next thing you know, we're not going to be able to use shampoo because it'll offend the bald people.
That's a good one.
Where does it end? Where does it stop? Where does it end? And it's just, we just have to we can't please everybody, and that's one constant truth. You can't please everybody, and you never will. And the more you keep taking stuff away, and the more you lose your capacity to adapt to an uncomfortable situation, because that's where our young people are right now. They are losing their capacity to adapt. So they want to change. What's being shoved down their throats is, let's go to Harvard Law and bang the gates down until they teach us how to cook there. Well, it's not a cooking school, y'all.
Yeah.
But they're being taught, you pick a place because of what the place has to offer. That's like, I just get so hysterically, I crack up when they're like, oh yeah, we're in the end times, and we're getting ready to, the earth is getting ready to finish, and these are the last days. And I'm like, are you for real? This place has been around since time immortal, and it shakes us off. Have you not noticed how many civilizations have come and gone?
Oh, yeah.
Earth or here. The only one in that ring who's still standing is Earth. Okay. So the idea that we've gotten so big-headed that we think that, we can come in here and change this environment, rather than recognizing that the environment was created for us to change within it.
Plus, everything is cyclical. There's cycles to everything. We have ups, we have downs. And that's true of all. Civilizations rise, fall, new civilizations rise again, and it happens for tens of thousands of years. Personally, I think hundreds of thousands of years. And everybody focuses so much, especially, the religious folks who focus on the end times, the apocalypse is coming. Okay, yeah, well, let's say the apocalypse comes. Then what happens after that? The earth will still be here. Things still go on. Life goes on. People will still be here unless we nuke ourselves. And even if we did, there's still our spirits, and there's still other opportunities out there, not just this particular little blue ball.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, guys, I'm very conscious of the fact that you have had a lot going on, and I have had a long day. So I think
we can go ahead and wrap it up from here. But I want to thank you very much for coming back on. As usual, it is always a blast talking with you.
Right. And I'm sorry you guys have had so much craziness going on, but sure, look at I shall send you love and blessings and wrap you in all. And to anybody else out there who's listening, I'm very, very grateful. Everything about me is available at MaryHelenHensley.com.
And where can they find your books?
Same, MaryHelenHensley.com.
Okay, fantastic. Well, Mary Helen, thank you so much again for coming on. This has been awesome chatting with you again. We really enjoy it having you on.
Guys, so much, and lots of love to you both, and look forward to chatting again.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll do it again, Mary. We'll do it again.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for listening to another edition of the Paranormal UK radio show, the flagship show here on the Paranormal UK radio network. And we will be here again next week. So please tune in. And Irene, where can people find us?
Everywhere, people, everywhere.
That's it. Well, have a great evening, everyone. Mary Ellen, thank you very much for being here, and we will catch everyone next week. Take care.